All right, we are live. I'm very excited to be joined by HodlDee. I think I'll just call you D because HodlDee is not going to roll off my tongue that well throughout the chat.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to be in Nashville last year through work with Gamma, and at the Bitcoin conference, I saw D speaking on. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but on securing your Bitcoin, and it's funny throughout my role at Gamma, working with artists and collectors on the ordinal side, but obviously, teaching them as much as I can about Bitcoin, you start to realize that, the cypherpunk ethos of like address reuse and all that sort of stuff is not happening. Um, but people are still interestingly, I chatted with Charlie Spears, who you probably know yesterday, and he said, even the fact that everyone who owns an ordinal, just for example, I know that's not necessarily like what you work with, but they're at least all holding their Bitcoin like off an exchange, which is step one. But we'll get
Right.
to that.
For
For
sure.
people who don't know who you are and don't know who Coinkite is, because you work at Coinkite, give us a bit of a, give us a bit of an introduction. How did you find Bitcoin? How did you end up at Coinkite? And
hmm
also, welcome. Thanks for joining
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Obviously I'm HodlDee on Twitter, so which is why I have my little HodlDee name down there, but I just go by D. Yeah, I was doing a talk on UTXO management
Right.
at that conference. So basically just figuring out how to send and receive your Bitcoin in a secure way. And yeah, address reuse was part of that. That's a big no-no in Bitcoin maxi land, but
Yeah.
obviously other people use Bitcoin differently, which is totally fine. And yeah, so I work for Coinkite. I'm part of customer support here, and I do a lot of emails and calls and things like that with people that want to learn more about our products. So we are a Bitcoin-only hardware wallet company. We also sell other doodads and cool things like the block clock, t-shirts, kind of all Bitcoin related stuff. But yeah, our bread and butter is the Bitcoin hardware wallet. It's called a Mark IV or Cold Card Q. Um, Coinkite is the company, and Cold Card is our main hardware wallet.
Yeah, and I can see you wearing an open dime.
That's right.
Which is cool, and we're going to get into what all these things are, and how they can be used, and kind of, I guess, interestingly, I listened to a couple of episodes recently with Danny Knowles on what Bitcoin did, and he spoke to the seed signer guy, and he also spoke to another guy called Sessions, I believe, who does a lot of
Ben.
Bitcoin education.
Yeah, yeah. BTC sessions. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, and
Great guy.
and he. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a fascinating chat, and that's why I was really also kind of like excited to speak to you because he acknowledged that obviously step one is getting your Bitcoin off an exchange. But before we sort of get there, how did you find Bitcoin? How did you end up at Coinkite? Like, what was your,
Mhm.
entry into Bitcoin? Obviously, I love that Coinkite is Bitcoin only because I know, and we're not here to like diss or say anything negative about other companies, but some other companies kind of, I guess, cater to other chains, and that's their prerogative. But being Bitcoin only, I think it's awesome that you have that focus. But yeah, anyway, how did you get into Bitcoin? So, and then how did you end up at CoinKite? What attracted you to all
Mhm.
of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people when they're young, they get into investing in general, stock market, things like that. They start trading. They see some shit coins, they throw $10 into it. I was part of some like forex exchange groups where you're trading in and out of different currencies and things like that, and getting completely wrecked. Was making no money. I kept losing money, and that's what drew me kind of to Bitcoin, where I would just buy it, hold it, self custody it, and then it was kind of like a savings account, right? I didn't have to trade in and out. I didn't have to worry about it. I could buy some on a monthly basis or whatever your preference is, and that's it, right? You don't have to trade it. So I was drawn to the savings aspect of it, and obviously, yeah, I kind of separate Bitcoin from crypto per se. I know obviously
Yeah,
cryptography is where crypto came from, but I think Bitcoin doesn't really have a inner circle of people that are making decisions and changing things when they see fit, whereas Bitcoin kind of stands out in that sense. So yeah, and I've been with Coinkite for over 3.5 years now. So it's been a while. That's kind of like a lifetime in Bitcoin land. Um, but yeah, it's been great. And before that, I just had a regular 9 to 5, and now I work fully remote and get to have opportunities like this. So obviously great to be talking with you, and that's kind of how I met you and get to go to some conferences and talk. And I think a lot of people think that I'm some guru, which I'm not. I learned a lot by teaching myself. Kind of the fake it till you make it type of deal, where people ask us questions and I have to give them an answer. So I have to research and make sure that I'm not feeding them false information. Up here in Canada, I used to, but I still run a Bitcoin meetup here, and just kind of entered through that. Bitcoin meetups are great, great place to learn, and I think a lot of people underestimate them. And even if you're a shitcoiner, you can come to the Bitcoin meetup, and people will welcome you and say, hey, like obviously we're a Bitcoin meetup, so I obviously try and stay on topic, but I'm not gonna like boot you out the door maybe if you're shilling XRP, like I'll boot you out the door. But if you're respectful and willing to listen and learn, then nothing wrong with that. So it's been a while and still here, still kicking, and it's not really about the price. It's kind of about your savings for the long term, and that's what I'm here to help people do.
Yeah, I think that's a really pertinent point because obviously, trading is a completely different ballgame. That's not what we're here to talk about. Bitcoin's fluctuating. We know that's like down at the moment, but regardless, like if you were to sort of zoom out, and I know that's a bit cliche, but and go, all right, well, 2 years ago we were at 16K, now we're at, I don't even know, I haven't checked, like 88, 90, whatever. It's still outperforming anything that people could invest in, but it's a long-term thing. You use the word savings, which I think is a really important way to view it. And I think obviously that's what you help people do at Coinkite. And yeah, like I said, I was sort of inspired by those couple of pods that I listened to, and obviously something that I've been thinking about. And obviously I work in ordinals, and I know that inscribing Lancers, they just help release Sats cards, which is with you guys. Coinkite helped develop them, which is a way that they can store their ordinals more securely as well. So that's really cool. I know that that's not your bread and butter, like you said, but yeah, it got me thinking about, like, we cater to all of these people, and these people are now buying Bitcoin. And I think that that's great. Like, I work with a lot of artists who the first Bitcoin that they've had to own was because of ordinals. So, like, we don't need to go into the whole debate and whatnot, but, any Bitcoiners who don't love it, like, it's been onboarding Bitcoiners too. So it got me thinking, like, they need to get better. Collectors, creators, but just people in general, is what we're here to talk about, get better at securing their Bitcoin, because obviously you don't want to lose your sats. You want to stack sats, stay humble, stack sats, as they say. So, when someone is new to Bitcoin, they probably pick their Bitcoin up on a centralized exchange. I guess step one is that they've sent it to, like, let's call it a hot wallet. But I'm going to let you talk us through that. Like, how do you? It's not easy for someone to just buy some Bitcoin and then whack it on cold storage. Maybe it is easy to do once they learn, but it's not where they're at. And so, like, how do you see the progression? How do you coach people through it? I'm sure you've had to through your position at Coinkite.
Yeah, I guess the first thing people would do would either buy the ETF, which is not Bitcoin at all, or which is like a synthetic 1-to-1 backed Bitcoin, where you have a huge honeypot like IBIT, where they buy Bitcoin for you and you get credited the appropriate amount. But obviously, you can't do anything with that because it's their Bitcoin, and you're kind of have a IOU in that sense. And the other option is buying it on something like Coinbase. We have something up here in Canada called Bull Bitcoin, which is a great exchange. They're more Bitcoin focused. They only sell Bitcoin, no shitcoins. Shitcoins, altcoins, whatever you want to call it. I don't care.
You're good. You can call it that. Yeah.
And so obviously you'd buy from there. You can also buy it P2P, like peer-to-peer. You can go to a Bitcoin meetup and talk to people and give them a couple $100, and they will send you Bitcoin to your hot wallet, right? So it depends on what your goal is. If you want to be a little more private, peer-to-peer is more beneficial because you're not buying it from an exchange that takes all your KYC information, like know your customer. So you don't have to kind of dox all your information to buy Bitcoin. I think obviously they serve different purposes. It's still Bitcoin at the end of the night, or at the end of the day. And so people start on an exchange and then they move it to a hot wallet, which is kind of like a wallet on your phone or your computer. A hot wallet's basically something that's connected directly to the internet. So if you click a potential malicious link on a social media platform, if you have a hot wallet, they could potentially infect your computer, take your seed phrase, and run away with your money. A cold wallet, like a cold card, essentially removes that factor where your seed is completely offline, ideally stamped into a steel plate and hidden somewhere where no one else can find it except for you, or split up. And even if you click a malicious link online, you'll never get rugged, right? Like we always hear a lot of people on Twitter, especially on shitcoin chains or MetaMask and all that shit. They're like, I clicked a malicious link and I got drained. And sounds like that person really wanted to trade in and out of different assets and didn't take self-custody. Like they just didn't take responsibility of their own money properly, and they paid the price for it. I think a lot of people learn via trial by fire, right? You have to lose money to understand that lesson, and it'd be great if people didn't have to learn that lesson, but I think a lot of people do, including myself. In the early days, I definitely sent some money to some scammer impersonator online and thought it was a friend and gave them money, and turned out it wasn't my friend, right? I think a lot of people go through that as well. And so cold storage is really important because you want to have friction in the fact that like you don't want to have to be able to access your Bitcoin so easily in order for someone to steal it, right? If it's harder for you to access, it's harder for them to access as well. So obviously there's multiple layers to that, and everyone's custody setup is going to be a little different. But cold storage is definitely the first step to stopping malicious people from stealing your hard-earned Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's well said. I heard a great analogy that, your hot wallet, and we might sort of rewind and talk about like why is it hot? Obviously it's better than it living on an exchange, and but what are the risks there? Because there are pros and cons. That's still better than some other options. However, that it's like you wouldn't walk around with a huge amount of money in your wallet when you walk down the street. You'll carry like $50, $100, something like that. Not that we even carry cash on us much anymore anyway, but yeah, like, you want to have your significant savings somewhere that, your wallet can't fall out of your pocket, for example, or, you catch my drift. And so what makes it a hot wallet? Like why we hear hot, we hear warm, we hear cold, obviously, it's better than it living on an exchange because we've seen exchanges go down and then people lose everything. So it's kind of like step one. But what are the pros? Like, why is it a good thing? Because I'm sure there are some good things. But what are the cons? Like you said, it's connected to the internet. You can lose it via living on clicking on a malicious link. But is there anything sort of more to it? Like your keys are to do with keys. Talk about what keys are. Like, let's really go like TLDR and what all of these terms even mean, because people hear them, but I'm not sure if everyone can fully understand.
Yeah. Cold, I just say cold is offline, right? It's not connected to anything. We have a term called air gapped, meaning that there's no direct line between you and the internet, right? There's no way for you to sign any transaction on your computer. You need a fully offline device to sign any money away. So with the cold card, you create transactions on your computer, and then you either use QR code, NFC, SD card. You can plug it in directly, but obviously that's not as air-gapped as we'd say. So QR code or SD card is what I'd highly recommend for air-gapped. It just means it's fully offline, so you're not directly connected to Wi-Fi or the internet or anything. Hot just meaning that you are connected. So if it's like a wallet extension on your browser, it's totally fine for a small amount of funds. Yeah, obviously I'm not walking around with gold bars in my pocket or my entire net worth in my pocket. If I have a couple $100, not a big deal. Okay, I get robbed. I'm not gonna suffer long term. I will just suffer short term with a couple $100 lost. It sucks, but it's not a huge deal. Whereas, yeah, if you lose hundreds, millions, whatever, that could be a huge upset to the person that lost that, and just makes you a big target. So you don't want to you don't want to do that. And there's just been lots of cases in the past where even on like Coinbase or anything like that, like they've been socially engineered to basically hack their login, or you give them your login and then they take your money, and Coinbase says, here you go, because you have all the necessary information for me to give you your money. So yeah, like talking about keys, your private key is the most important part of custodying your Bitcoin. Your private key is your door into your vault. If you have the private key, it is essentially your Bitcoin. There's no central authority that says, "Hey, this is Dee's Bitcoin. This is Brett's Bitcoin." No, it's hey, you have this private key. You can unlock this door. Okay, here you go. Right, here's your Bitcoin, or I'm gonna send it, whatever. So yeah, keys are very important. There's like public keys where you basically, for like an offline cold card, you'd import your public key into something like Sparrow, which is a companion app that it basically allows you to view your Bitcoin and create transactions, but not spend anything unless you bring that transaction onto your cold card offline. So public key is kind of like an email address. Like I can send Bitcoin to it. Your public key basically derives all your addresses. So some browser extension wallets make this kind of confusing, where they think each address is a different wallet, right? I think you and I have both maybe run into that a little bit. Whereas like if you have your public key, all those wallets you can drive all those wallets. Like as soon as you click add account or whatever, like that's not a different wallet, that's just a different address using the same private key. So that can get a little confusing. But yeah, your public key is like your email, and your private key is like your password, per se, to put it in layman's terms.
Yeah, it's really well explained, and I think that some people don't perhaps realize that just having separate addresses under the same public key doesn't protect you if somebody gets access to that.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, your seed phrase is the most important thing. It's 12 or 24 words. There's other things that you can get into, like older exprivs and things like that, which is just a very long string. The tap signer that we have uses an expriv, which is just an extended private key. It's not like 12 or 24 words, but basically your private key is your bread and butter. You got to protect that at all costs. And, we were talking about like new people in the space. I think people like to give responsibility away to other people because they don't want it, right? But Bitcoin is kind of a responsibility go up technology, I like to say. And if you're not willing to take responsibility, then you're gonna have to accept the trade-off of giving up custody to someone else. Because yeah, if you can't take responsibility, then you're just gonna have to take that risk. And is the trade-off worth it? I don't think so. I think it's better to sit down for an hour and learn self-custody. But yeah, everyone's going to be different. Some people might hold it on exchange. Some people might buy the ETF, right? I don't think those things are inherently bad. They are just big honeypots. And there's FTX, Celsius, BlockFi, Quadriga, Mt. Gox. That's 5 right off the bat.
Massive ones.
That have been totally fucked. And money gone, right? So do you want that risk, or do you want to take on a little more risk yourself and avoid that trade-off?
100%. Yeah, no, look, those 5. Yeah, I'm sure there's more. You don't even need to name more. If people know those stories, they can go look them up. And obviously, you've provided a lot of tutorials and guides, and also videos through Coinkite, which I encourage everyone to check out, and we can link to afterwards. So, someone buys Bitcoin, like my grandma buys Bitcoin, for example. I love, everyone uses the grandma example. Like, where should she start? Obviously, it'd be great to have her using a cold card, but like, is there, like we said, everyone's at their different levels. Like, how does she then self-custody? Because self-custody, like you said, it's so important. I'm a huge self-custody advocate as well, but it's a scary thought for people as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think grandma can figure it out slowly. She might want to start with a hot wallet. Yeah, that's totally fine. But a piece of paper with 12 words put in a safety deposit box if she trusts the bank. I don't trust the bank, but if you want to, still custody, but secure your seeds in a safe location rather than burying it in a field, maybe that's a good option for them. But yeah, I think it's just like we were talking about Ben BTC sessions earlier. Hop on YouTube, listen to an hour-long tutorial if you want. If you don't, then there's options like Casa or Unchained, which is like a multi-sig situation where you pay them, $5 a month, and they help you set up your self-custody multi-sig. They hold a key, you hold a key, and you give another key to someone else. So if you lose one of the keys, then you can still recover your Bitcoin, things like that. It's not really a one-size-fits-all, but honestly, like grandma is probably very old, and I don't recommend the ETF or exchanges, but like I think grandma will probably be fine in the next 10 years holding the ETF and not having to worry about any of this, right? And yeah, so like there obviously is a trade-off there, but yeah, grandma has already made her money and is ready to just relax rather than continue to learn about this insane technology. Like, some grandmas don't even know how to use an iPhone.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to be like, oh yeah, grandma, like here, you should take this device and roll some dice 100 times, So yeah, it depends. I think one good thing for grandmas is if they have someone like yourself or me that are younger, and we have self-custody. And what you can do is you can use something called BIP85, which is parent. It's kind of like parent-child but in a different way, where you have the master seed as your hoard, and you can derive seeds from your seed. So if she ever loses her seed somewhere, whatever, burns up in flames, whatever, you can always derive her seed from yours again. So you almost act as her backup. The issue here is it's like an Uncle Jim method, right? Where you could totally rug her if you wanted to, but she probably trusts you more than an exchange or a bank or anything, right? So it is kind of tied to your Bitcoin as well, but you act as her backup. And the best part is that she can't figure it. Like, there's no way to go back up the tree. So you can go master to child, but you can't go back up from child to master. So if you have the master seed, you can always derive more children or backups or whatever. But if you have a child seed, you can't go back up the ladder. So it's kind of a one-way street, but it is a good way for grandma to get started. You can help her set it up. You can give her the public key to import into an app like Nunchuck or Blue Wallet or Cove, basically like those companion apps. She can see all her Bitcoin. She knows how much she has. If you want to pay her in Bitcoin, she can click receive and she'll show you a QR for you to send her money. But she can't like send it unless she has her cold storage that you help her set up. So stuff like that is a good option as well. Again, there's just like so many options to choose from, and people are like, well, what's the best way? And I'm like, well, it's really personal choice, and it's very hard to tell someone else exactly what is best for them.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. And so I've heard of it. I haven't actually dug too much into it. Is this something that someone could do for their own self-custody? Do you find individuals using it? They're like, okay, like I have my BIP85, my kind of master seed phrase, I'm going to secure that heavily. And then at least I know that if I have these other seed phrases, these other private keys, if I lose one, I can still go and, dig it out.
Yeah, you can use one as a hot wallet if you want. You can use one as your significant other's wallet, so that if they ever lose it, then you can still recover it for them. It's just an option for people that want more seeds and want the easiest way to back up. Rather than backing up 4 different seeds, you can just back up 1 and you have access to all of them per se. People also use things like passphrases. I know you're probably familiar with those. People like to call it a 25th word. It's not exactly a 25th word because it can be 12 more words or 6 words or a string of random letters and numbers. It doesn't have to be a word at all. But it's basically another door you have to get through, right? You have 12 words, and okay, you lost your 12 words, and someone got a hold of it. Well, they still need to know your passphrase as well, which is a good one as well. It's a different wallet, but it's still attached to the same seed. So you don't get a different seed. You just basically add on this new door that you have to access. So it's kind of nice. There's no way to know that you have a passphrase loaded either. Maybe you have a small amount of funds in like your regular 12-word seed, and then you have your hoard hidden behind a passphrase or something like that. But yeah, there's just lots of options. Those are only 2 of them. We also offer like trick pins, like duress wallets, where you can have a different pin to sign into your cold card, and it directs you to a completely different wallet. And they would never know unless obviously you told them. Things like that, which really help with privacy and security.
Yeah, and what we've just been talking about are things that are part of the Coinkite product suite.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, like I said, trick pins are available on the cold card. There's also like policies where you can set where, say you have a cold card in your house with your seed loaded, sure, but you can only spend up to 1 million sats per day or something like that. So if someone comes to your house, puts a gun to your head, you can, you still give them some money to leave, but you can literally say like it's literally impossible for me on this device to send you more than what I sent you. That is all I can send you. You're gonna have to come back tomorrow, or at a year from now, or whatever. But there's also things like time locks where you can actually lock your Bitcoin up for 2 years and say, listen, man, you literally cannot access this money for 2 years. So, things like that. That's not specific to cold card. That's just Bitcoin in general. But there's a lot of ways to secure your Bitcoin, and there's a lot of different options, and it's hard to tell which one's best for you. But that wouldn't be a grandma thing. But I'm just saying.
Yeah, for sure. And so I noticed on the website there's the cold card queue, and then there's also so that's coinkite.com, so people can definitely have a look at that. There's the cold card queue, and then there's cold card, looks like HodlSafe or something. What's the difference there?
HodlSafe, I'm not sure what you're talking about.
It says it on the picture. Let's see. There's cold card Q, it looks like, and then there's another cold card next to it.
Yeah, there's a Mark IV. So that's the T.
That's
the
it.
T9.
Yep.
Yeah. It's just like it's the same. Sorry, it's the same security. Just it doesn't have like QR and things like that. So it's an upgraded MK4. So we started with the Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3. We now sell the Mark 4, which has 2 secure elements, meaning that you'd have to hack into both of those plus the MCU just to break the pin, which is very hard, nearly impossible. There's been no evidence of that. And Trezor actually just started using a secure element as well. So clearly they're valuable and important. So those are the 2, the cold card Q and MK4. We like the MK4 because it's very slim, but again, doesn't have that QR code scanner. So there is a limitation there. But yeah, it depends on what your need is. And the Q obviously has the full QWERTY keyboard and things like that. A little bit of a better NFC, things like that.
Yeah, interesting. And like we said earlier, you've got the OpenDime hanging around your neck. Like, what would someone use an OpenDime for? Where does that fit into the whole product suite, and why would you use it, or why wouldn't you use it, or what would you use it for?
Yeah, OpenDime is like a gift card. So you load it. You don't buy it with Bitcoin on it. You basically buy it empty, and then you would plug it in, and it would derive an address, and it says send Bitcoin to this address, and whatever you send to it is on the chip on this device. I can give this to someone and verify that I don't have the private key. No one has the private key unless I basically pop a chip on this to break it, and then the private key is unsealed, and then you can spend that Bitcoin. So that's why it's like a gift card, right? If you're on a boat and you're doing a private transaction with whatever, it doesn't have to be a boat. I don't know why I said a boat. I don't know what private transactions you're doing on boats. Yeah, I can basically give this to you. You could give me cash, and no one knows that we made that transaction. There's no trace of it on chain because there's no address to address being sent. It's just P2P, peer to peer, in person, physical. So it's kind of like when someone says, "Oh, like I can't touch Bitcoin, I can't hold Bitcoin." I'm like, here, like this is Bitcoin. If I give this to you right now and you run away, you now have my Bitcoin, right? So it's not for it is self custody. It's not really for long term storage per se, like cold storage. It's more of a fun niche thing. People wear it as jewelry. People hand it out at weddings, things like that. Yeah, and then the upgraded version of this is the Sats card, which is basically an open diamond in card form, and instead of having one slot, basically when you break this, you can't use it again because it's unsealed. The Sats card has 10 slots where you essentially enter in the pin on a companion app like Nunchuck, and you can unseal that private key and send it, and then you can basically generate a new slot and a new address to send more Bitcoin to. So multiple uses. So yeah, you give it to someone for their wedding, they send that Bitcoin off, and then maybe they want to use it later. They can still use it as a product, which is great.
So it's one address at a time on the Sats card. Is that correct? And then would that still be a better, let's say better, I know that that's on a spectrum, a better option for someone potentially to have their Bitcoin if they don't trust themselves with the other, cold card, for example? Hopefully they should, but could you, would you, I guess, careful what you say, I guess, working at Coinkite, but could someone put their Bitcoin on it and then securely store that, or is that better than in a hot wallet? You know what I'm trying to say here, or is it still probably not something you recommend?
Yeah, the issue is there's no backup.
Yeah.
Right? So if you lose it, you're fucked.
It's gone. Yeah.
So that's why I wouldn't recommend it for crazy large amounts. I think the Sats card obviously has a more longevity than an OpenDime. An OpenDime is basically, it's USB-C stick. If you knock it or break it, like, it's toast. So it is a little bit more delicate than the plastic card that everything's encased in. But yeah, I wouldn't use it for long-term storage. I'd probably say you're probably better off using a hot wallet and writing your seed words down still. But yeah, it does serve a purpose. It's just not exactly for cold storage.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense, and that clarifies that. I have had people ask that. I've also had people ask, what if I use a hot wallet? In Ordinal's land, a lot of people use Xverse or Unisat or Phantom or whatever else, Leather. And I securely store my seed phrase, hopefully on a metal plate rather than paper. And then they securely they're storing that, but then that hot wallet is offline. Is it the risk that has been online already? Like, if they don't use that wallet, if it was on it's a seed phrase that they then, the hot wallet's been removed. It's not a browser extension. Yeah. Where does that sit in the scale of things?
Yeah, I guess you still can't really trust that it's been deleted fully, right? From your computer. I always recommend generating your seed fully offline and keeping it offline.
Yeah, talk to us about that. What does that mean? Because I know I was meant to ask before. I heard you say roll the dice. That's getting serious. Some people might not have ever done that or even heard of that. So yeah, to sort of talk about that generation of the seed offline. How does that all work?
Yeah, so any hardware wallet will do this. They use a TRNG, which is a true random number generator. Basically, it takes a bunch of random things. Like, the whole point of generating seed is to generate randomness. You want to essentially create a super long string of numbers that no one can guess. Like, it's just a huge number. It's so large that human brains can't comprehend. So you want to generate that number or generate that string once and only once. and that's kind of called the elliptic curve. And rolling dice helps you do that. So there's something called entropy, and when you roll dice, you are generating entropy, which is randomness. So instead of letting the harder wallet generate that entropy for you, you can roll dice and enter in between 1 and 6, obviously, because it's a 6-sided dice, and that will give you 2.58 bits of entropy per roll. So you need to roll 99 times to get 256 bits of entropy, which is what a 24-word seed will give you. If you roll 100 dice and you press 1 every time, yes, you will generate 256 bits of entropy, but it will be very weak, and you could, have your someone could reproduce that, right? So when you're rolling dice, it is an advanced feature. You got to make sure that when you're rolling, you're actually entering the proper proper inputs. And our devices force you to roll at least 50 times, which is 128 bits, which is a 12-word seed.
Yeah.
But again, just make sure you don't input 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. It's kind of like having a seed that is bacon, 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 12 words. Any money that you put in a seed word or seed phrase like that will be stolen because it is a low entropy wallet, and people there's bots that are consistently scanning those addresses or scanning those wallets to take that money. But yeah, private keys, generating that private key with dice rolls should be done offline, and you should never touch the internet. If it touches the internet, it's fine. It's just I would always consider that a hot wallet. At the end of the day, even if you deleted it off your browser, you have no idea what's being cached and what's being stored in your computer.
Yeah, so it's all on a spectrum, 100%. Yeah, and obviously, I'd heard of the dice rolls and the creation of the entropy. I guess there's been, on this topic, there's been wallets that have been broken into due to low entropy, like some early Bitcoin wallets we've heard of. And obviously, Quantum is a completely different topic. We're kind of hearing about that. And what are we going to do if they get Satoshi's keys? But it's I think that that sums it up, doesn't it?
Yeah, and those older wallets had an exploit in the generation, right? So if you know a certain path of how those seeds are being generated, you can exploit that, and you can regenerate those seeds over and over and over again. And then essentially, if there's any Bitcoin in them, they can take them. So yeah, seed generation is literally the most important part of your setup. Most of the time, I recommend people to just allow the device to use the TRNG because it's better than you fucking up.
Yeah.
So yeah, all devices do that. Even all hot wallets do this, right? That's how no one can steal your money. There is no login. Your private key is your login, and an elliptic curve basically is you can only get to that position on the curve once, basically. It's like winning the lottery 7 times in a row, which is literally impossible. Even intense computers cannot guess your private key as of today. That might change in the future. I don't know. I think that is kind of like a fear-mongering thing.
Yeah.
There'll definitely be signs before that, and a lot of things will also break in post-quantum worlds, like your bank account and your Wi-Fi and your internet and things like that. You'll never be able to have a password stored safely. Everything would be at risk unless they added in quantum hardened XYZ, which is a whole other thing. I am not a professional in this realm, so that's all I'm going to say on that because I can't speak on it.
Yeah, no, neither can I. I heard Checkmate, who people should follow if they're interested in Bitcoin analysis, speak on that as well. He's if we get into that post-quantum world, we've got bigger problems than people accessing Satoshi's keys. So, yeah, I think that people are going to be working to hopefully, basically it's fear-mongering. We don't even need to talk about it. So it's interesting. This is a question that I've thought of. I guess I could have looked this up, but you might be able to answer it better. 12 words is great, but it seems then to me that obviously 24 words is better. Why do both options exist? I've never really looked this up myself.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the answer for you.
Mm,
I know that 12 words is very secure, and the jump from 12 to 24 is not as uh, wide as people think it is. That's a good question. I'd have to get back to you on that because I'm not
yeah.
sure. It's just a different standard. We use BIP 39, which is the seed word standard. Before BIP 39, there was no seed words. It was just a long string, like the xpriv thing, like I was talking to you about, like people using paper wallets and things like that. So I would be interested to know that answer, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, no, it's
Yeah,
always good to be honest when you don't know something. Before I worked at Gamma, I was a primary school teacher, and some questions you just can't answer.
that's
So,
right.
on Coinkite, you can see the seed plates. Obviously, that's a metal plate where people can much more securely note down their seed phrases. Obviously, paper's good, metal is better for obvious
Uh,
reasons, but still talk us
yeah.
through that and how do people. What do you recommend? Like, do people have more than one seed plate, and how do you see people storing them? Or are there recommendations that Coinkite makes, like put half your seed on the plate and half on another plate and separate them? Things like that you hear about. I'm not sure if that's a thing,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like, there are
Bad
things
idea.
like that. What should, is there a should, or is it on a spectrum, or how do you encourage people from Coinkite?
Yeah, we have a standard, or we promote a standard called Seed XOR, meaning that you can take your seed and you can split it up into three different parts,
Three
and you
parts.
can three parts, or you can actually do multiple different ways, but three parts is good. And yeah, you can basically have that in three metal plates. It is still 12 or 24 words per plate. It's not like 888 or things like that. So when people see it, it would still be a valid seed. But when you can join them back together, that makes your actual seed, which is a great one. It's kind of like multisig. You need all the parts to basically recreate the master seed. But that's a good one. I think multisig is a great option too, where people do a 2 of 3, and then you just stamp your seeds on each plate, put them in different geographical locations, and no matter what, if someone comes to your door and puts a gun to your head, you can't sign anything without going, 600 kilometers or across the ocean or things like that. So yeah, obviously, if you're just using single sig, that's fine for a beginner. And like honestly, it depends on the person. That even an advanced person can still use single sig and things that we were explaining earlier. And yeah, it's just so that if your house burns up in flames, that steel plate will not melt essentially, and you'll still be able to recover your seed. I think the best thing that we recommend is like multiple backups, so you can have multiple seed plates, maybe not too many, but more than one, and you have them in different locations, so that if you can't access one, you can still go to another location. So that's definitely having backups is good. You can also have a backup on an SD card, encrypted, things like that. Yeah, multiple options.
Yeah, and it's best to have multiple options, isn't it? So obviously it sounds self-explanatory, the difference between multi-sig and single sig. But yeah, let's just like
For
hone in
sure.
on that. What do you mean? And how, like, if I was to have, for people, people call Bitcoiners, if people were to use multi-sig, what does that mean? How do they implement it?
Yeah. So single sig is a single signature to sign Bitcoin transactions. Multi sig is multiple signatures to send Bitcoin. So the default one that people usually go to is a 2 of 3 for multi-sig. Basically, you need the configuration file, or it's called the descriptor, meaning that you need to know the path to get back to that wallet. So with a multi-sig, either you can take all 3 seeds, put them together, and you can get that descriptor back, or ideally you keep the descriptor file with the backups in the different locations, so that as long as you only have 2 of them, or sorry, if you only have 2 of them and you still have the descriptor, then you can still sign Bitcoin transactions. Having both seeds and not having the third one and not having the descriptor is not enough to sign a Bitcoin transaction in a multi-sig manner. You need the descriptor file, which I think a lot of people miss. when people say 2 of 3, they think they only need 2 of 3 things, but you actually need 3 of 4 things. You need that descriptor file and 2 of the seeds to sign any Bitcoin transaction.
And then that would be via a companion app, like you said before, such as Sparrow?
Yeah, exactly. So you create that transaction. This is the UTXO from the address I want to send from. I want to send it here. And then it would say, great, okay, now I need my signatures, please. And then you'd have to provide those 2 signatures. Usually, if you have your companion app loaded, that descriptor file is already input in, right? Like you already have that information, but it's still important to have that backed up as well.
For sure. Yeah, and you mentioned, like when I saw you at Nashville last year, you were speaking on UTXO management. I know what a UTXO is. A lot of people on Ordinals now have learnt what a UTXO means. The SAT that's tied to their inscription, sits in a UTXO. But let's just kind of like mention what that is and how does this kind of tie into, I guess like hodling their Bitcoin. And then we can touch on how should they or could they be securing their ordinals. Obviously, ordinals are Bitcoin but yeah, let's get there.
Yeah, UTXO is an unspent transaction output. Basically, when you create a transaction sent to a Bitcoin address, you're inputting a specific UTXO and spitting out a new one. Every time you create a Bitcoin transaction, that UTXO is destroyed and a new one's created. So yeah, that's what UTXO means. Ideally, when you send Bitcoin to an address, you want to only use it once, just for privacy's sake, so that you aren't kind of creating a huge web, because Bitcoin is a pseudo-anonymous, yeah, I don't know if I said that right, but
You did.
Chain, and everything is public on chain. So if you're sending from a KYC exchange and you're sending to the same address as your non KYC Bitcoin or whatever, then yeah, you could, like on chain, it just knows, okay, well, clearly the same person owns that address because they're coming from 2 different places and it's meeting in the same address. So you kind of want to reduce your privacy or increase your privacy by not doing that. But that is up to the individual for sure. The same way for ordinals, if you want to store them in cold storage, you just send it to an address. Ideally, you keep them in different addresses so that you avoid confusion, but you can see on Sparrow all the UTXOs on a single address, and you can freeze them and move them in whichever way you want. Ordinals uses FIFO, first in, first out, so ideally you would spend your ordinal UTXO first and then have the fee underneath that. And Sparrow's great because it has like a huge graph that shows you essentially what you're doing before broadcasting, so you don't accidentally spend the Bitcoin you want to send in a fee. And people in the early days learned their lesson probably with that, and probably lost a bunch of money. But I think they're wising up, and yeah, different browser extension wallets make that easy for you, but they are hot wallets. And if you care about art and you actually want to support artists and are passionate about it and not just flipping JPEGs, then yeah, holding them in cold storage might be beneficial to you and less risk.
Yeah, and so like we said, because they in the UTXO, essentially they're tied to the Bitcoin that already exists. They're not a separate thing, so to speak. Is it as simple? I know that's maybe like, I don't want to use the word simple again, but is that oversimplifying it, or is that like they could store the UTXO securely, like off chain, like using a cold card?
Nothing is off chain, right?
Oh, sorry, not off chain, offline.
Yeah,
I meant to say offline.
You can store it in
my
a wallet
mistake.
that is not attached to the internet, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's just as easy as going on your wallet, browser extension, wallet, whatever you want to call it. Pick and choose which one you want to use, and then you click send, and then you provide an address to it. Now, sending it out of cold storage obviously is a little bit more manual because the hot wallets kind of manage that for you and are, ordinals aware. So they know how to handle those UTXOs properly. If you mishandle your UTXOs in cold storage, you can potentially use them as a fee to a miner and lose it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you handle it properly and learn UTXO management, then you don't have to worry so much about that. The really cool thing about what I think Casey did in the beginning was, which probably a lot of people don't know about now, is like padding, right? He added, like, you wanted 10,000 sats per, so that you could actually use some of those, some of that Bitcoin to send it. But now people just use two UTXOs, one UTXO for the asset and one UTXO for the fee. But that actually does cost you more money. So if you use padding, it will actually save you some sats. But fees are so low right now, it really doesn't matter that much. But I just found it was weird. It was a weird migration from people knew about padding to like people are like, padding. What the fuck is that? But yeah, it's just like sending regular Bitcoin. And I know I've seen some people send it to an OpenDime or a Sats card before. And if you're only sending one UTXO, or you're only sending one time to the address on the OpenDime or to the Sats card, it's only, you don't have to order it because there's only one transaction, one UTXO. So it's going to be first, right? First in, first out. It's going to be first because there's only one. But if you send multiple in different transactions, that's when it can get sticky, because if you're using a companion app that is not ordinals aware, then it could potentially spend one of them as a fee, or put them all together into, so it's a little confusing. But yeah, I've seen people put them on open dimes and things like that. And it's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Sorry, I definitely meant to say offline and not off chain. But so
Yeah,
if somebody sent the UTXO with the inscription to a Sats card,
mm-hmm.
does that mean that they would like? How would that? This is actually something I haven't thought of. How would they then send it out if there isn't enough padding, or there isn't the another UTXO to pay with?
If there's not enough padding, then you have the option to send more Bitcoin to it, but now you have two UTXOs in the same address. So what you would do is you would probably import that. It's called XPriv, extended private key, because it doesn't. Open dimes and Sats cards don't use 12 or 24 words. You would import your private key into Sparrow, and then you would put in a destination address, like a send address, and then you would basically play with the ordering, so that you wouldn't spend it as a fee, and then you'd make sure that the asset's on top and the fee is on the bottom. Yeah, so it's a little bit. It's a little trickier because Sparrow's not ordinals aware, so it's a little more manual. But yeah, you can. It's just regular Bitcoin, so
it is.
As long as you know how to manage your UTXOs, you can do whatever you want with it. And like, just as a preface, or not a. At Coinkite, we're agnostic to these things.
Yeah.
Like, we don't really care about them. We'll happily help you self custody regardless. We're not gonna be buying and selling ordinals and speculating on them or advocating for them. But if you're using Bitcoin, then you're using Bitcoin, is kind of the way that we like to put it, or I like to put it personally.
Yeah, for sure. No, I completely understand that. It's important to ensure that you do represent like that. Yeah, but I guess, people are using your products. I have an inscription on a Sats card, so that was a bit of a selfish question from myself.
All good.
Yeah. And then I noticed something that I haven't had a look at. It says, Sats chip. It's a Bitcoin private key an artist can embed into a work of art. What's going on there? I haven't really read into those.
Yeah, it's like Bitcoin adjacent tech. So it's not. It uses like a key to sign. Like, you can sign like PG key, if you heard of like PGP keys and things like that. It's kind of like a way to sign and verify that you own or authenticate a specific thing. Say you have 10 cards, you have 10 exclusive pieces of art. You can attach it to the art, add the picture, things like that, and then you give that chip, or you give that card to the person that bought it, and then now whenever someone NFC tags it, it's, hey, this is attached to my art. There's only 10 of these, things like that. And if you reproduce it, then the card ID will be different, things like that. So you can kind of, just like an authenticity thing. But yeah, it's not part of Bitcoin per se. It just kind of uses key signing technology.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, no, interesting. And people can always click learn more on the website to As it very specifically says, learn more. But we're learning
That's right.
from you, D, which is really appreciate your time. So, what's the difference between a tap signer and a Sats card? So it says, one says
Mhm.
like cash, and the other one's the simple Bitcoin wallet, which sums it up a little bit. But yeah, how do people use both, or why would they use one or the other?
Yeah, Tap Signer has a backup. It is a semi cold wallet. It is a blind signer per se, similar to a Sats card, I guess. Anything without a screen is a blind signer. But if you want something that is a little more lightweight, and maybe you're not ready to purchase a higher value device, maybe you have a small amount you want to carry around. It's a way to have like a two-factor authentication on a potentially hot wallet. So it's like I want to send money. I need to tap my card and put in my PIN. So it still acts as a hardware wallet. You are trusting the app that where you're sending the Bitcoin and how much and things like that. So hence the blind signer part. Our Cold Card Q and Cold Card MK4 have a screen that says this is the address, this is how much you're sending, yada yada. Whereas with the tap signer, you don't have that, right? So it is a trade-off there, but it's a lot more affordable, and yeah, serves its purpose. It's a great like checking account. You don't want a hot wallet, but you want something to carry around. You want to travel with. You can still use that without using a just straight up hot wallet. So yeah, so you need to still, similar to the cold card, you need to sign with the card in order to spend any money. Yeah, and then sorry, and to talk about the Sats card, obviously the private key is not revealed; it's sealed, and it's like a gift card. If you give it away, then they have your Bitcoin. So Tap Signer is like a hardware wallet, and the Sats card's like the gift card.
Yeah, yeah, that sums it up well. And the CK Bunker is something I've never heard of. I didn't even know it was part of the product suite, and I've been on the website before. I guess I haven't scrolled down far enough. Seems a little bit technical. Maybe it's not. What's going
It
on
is a
there,
little
just
more
for people?
technical. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that one's a little more technical, so I wouldn't get into
Let's
that
not
too
dive
much.
in too
But
much. It might not be
yeah.
relevant, but
All good. It's just very advanced thing for people if they want to use their cold card in conjunction with their computer. You can plug it in and kind of do a lot of more advanced functions and things like that.
yeah, yeah. And the block clocks are just a little bit of fun, keeping on top of block time versus, I guess the
Yeah,
time
you
in,
can do whatever you
in
want. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Sats, block height, price, priced in rubles or whatever. Yeah, it's a cool one to have in the background if you're a podcaster, and it's nice because it has the e-ink display, so it kind of like shuffles, it does like that flickering thing where it changes from Sats to the price of Bitcoin or the block height or whatever. Yeah, and that one's
Yeah,
just for fun,
yeah.
but it's a nostalgic staple of ours.
100%, yeah, no, and it is fun, and Bitcoin is a savings mechanism, but it also needs to be fun for people. But they also definitely need to take it seriously. I hope that they have a good listen through to this, and obviously, Coinkite and the staff would be there for technical support. You've got a lot of resources and things. If you were to sort of summarize, I know it might be a little bit like it's how long's a piece of string, but how would you summarize what we've talked about? Like, why is self custody important? What are the first steps that people should take? Like, obviously, go to Coinkite, check it out. But,
Hmm.
if like a little bit of the elevator pitch on self custody and what people can do if they want to sort of go to the next level of securing their Bitcoin.
Yeah, like the first sentence of the Bitcoin white paper is like a peer-to-peer version of electronic cash between people without a financial institution. That was kind of the summary of it. So Bitcoin's kind of separating money from state. And if you want to take responsibility of your own money, you're going to have to take steps in order to do that. So Bitcoin is a responsibility to go up technology. And if you want a Swiss bank account in your pocket, we have that option for you. And if you're storing, thousands, hundred thousands, millions of dollars, a $200 device is definitely worth it for people. I think personally, you're kind of just investing or saving, securing a large amount of money, and you want the most secure hardware wallet to do so. So we don't support shitcoins. The more code that you're running on your device, the more exploits and backdoors and things like that. Not saying that that's possible. I'm just saying there's just more things to keep up and worry about. So you want to have it lean and specific to one thing. And that's why we are a Bitcoin only company, among other things, obviously. But yeah, that's us. And you can find me at support@coinkite.com or find us. And appreciate you having us on or having me on. And it was great. If you have any more questions, happy to answer.
Yeah, no, I think that summarizes it beautifully, Dee. Really appreciate your time. It's always a learning journey. I think that's the thing with Bitcoin is it never stops. Even, Sessions and all those people have been involved for ages. I'm sure that they're constantly learning too. As you said, you are working at Coinkite, as I am working at Gamma, as everyone is who sort of like gets deeper and more or entirely, Bitcoin aligned. So yeah, once again, Dee, really appreciate your time. I do encourage people to go and check out Coinkite, but just also start to think about how you secure your Bitcoin, what you're doing, like how seriously you take it, like start to consider all of that wallet hygiene. And yeah, any questions, obviously they can always hit me up, but also definitely go to the professionals in Coinkite and any of the other companies that provide it. So thanks so much.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, man. And my thoughts are my own. Obviously, I work for the company. Appreciate you having us on. And I welcome everyone to Bitcoin, even shitcoiners. And people that use Bitcoin on chain are good for Bitcoin, I think. So thanks again.
100%. I think all roads lead back to Bitcoin Day.
That's right. Cheers.